Hello and welcome to 65 Wide. My name is Spencer Strikert and I am your host of this CFL podcast. It is week 3 of the podcast. It is the third week of the preseason and I am so excited for our guest that is coming up. I had a great conversation with this guy, number 43 for the Calgary Stampeders, the long snapper, Jason MacGougan, who honestly, he had great insight about what it's like to be on special teams. He had some great advice to offer and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs in this interview and I had a blast. Before we get into that interview, let's talk about what's been happening around the league this past week. Biggest headline this week, Hamilton receiver Kenny Lawler receives the largest contract for a wide receiver in CFL history, $1 million over the next 3 years. The number one target for Bo Levi Mitchell and CFL All-Star had a Cinderella story of a career, getting drafted in the 7th round of the NFL draft by the Seattle Seahawks in 2016. He spent his rookie year on their practice roster before joining the CFL with stints with the BC Lions and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, where in 2019 he had a 10-catch, 144-yard game against his current team, the Ticats. This obviously sets a huge precedent for the league and hopefully influences larger salaries for other star non-quarterback players. Congratulations, Kenny. We are all happy for you, but for the love of God, do not get behind the wheel of a car. You have the money now. You can get an Uber. The other big story this week, the CFL announces a broadcasting deal with DAZN starting in 2027, which will become the exclusive broadcaster for Saturday games. Some people are upset as sports leagues move further and further away from traditional TV broadcasts, but I, for one, welcome our tech giant overlords. Now I don't have to put a fake card on my DAZN account between February and August and can justify their bi-weekly fees. In our final weekend of preseason games, we saw Ottawa dominate the Alouettes yet again, finishing 27-3, and honestly, this score would be less sad before the elimination of the Rouge rule, as it would have meant that the Als could have scored 3 separate times. The BC Lions took down the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 30-19 in a game that felt very drive for drive. A game that included, in my opinion, the play of the week. Hamilton versus Toronto ended with the Ticats walking away with the win 20-14 despite a second quarter pick 6 by linebacker Owen Goss of the Toronto Argonauts, and the play of all plays as Nathan Walker punts the ball and knocks it out of bounds in the air off of a bounce, returning the ball to Toronto. Honestly, watching that, it looked like he headbutted it out of bounds. It was incredible. And the final preseason game, the Battle of Alberta between the Edmonton Elks and the Calgary Stampeders. The game was delayed for an hour due to weather and had everybody watching on CFL Plus praying for the stereotypical hold music and ads after the loop of generic rock and slideshow of various theme nights for the Elks. It was also a flag football game. Not actually a flag football game, but you would think so with the amount of yellow pennies being thrown on the field. Did you know that that game actually had more penalties than every game in the preseason combined? I don't actually know if that's true or not, but for a second you believed me. Tensions were high, the wind was howling, and the Stamps closed it out in a nail-biter 21-18. We're going to get into our conversation with Jason in just a second, but before we do, we got to head to our ad. Hey, this is Spencer Striker from Spencer Striker's Big Media Company. You know, last week I said that we had over 40 million listeners here on 65 Wide, the CFL podcast, and guess what? We've ended up going up and taking over the entire continental United States. We are up to 400 million listeners in North America. Next, it is Europe, and to quote GameStonk, to the moon! If you would like to buy an ad on 65 Wide, you can email me 65widepodcast@gmail.com. You read the title, you know what this is about. Our guest today is a long snapper from Burlington, Ontario, who for 4 years played with the University of Laurier for the Golden Hawks. He played in 37 games, recording 11 tackles. In 2025, he signed with the Calgary Stampeders after going undrafted and then re-signed with them 2 weeks after being cut, playing in 15 games and helping the Stamps to the Western semifinals. Please welcome number 43 with the sick flow and the wicked back throw, Jason MacGougan. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I am doing great. I wanted to get into it right off the bat because we kind of talked about it in our DMs before the interview here. about the preseason game against the Elks this past weekend. I wanted to bring this up just as a thought because, there was a lot of penalties, but I was wondering if because there is such a historic rivalry between the two teams, plus it's a preseason game, so you got a bunch of new eager guys out there, and on top of that, you have an insane weather delay. How much does that kind of play into the atmosphere on the field?
Well, it's definitely a factor. I mean, I think, like you said, like the weather delay for one thing, having the game pushed back an hour. I think guys were getting pretty antsy, especially, being a preseason game and being the rivalry game that it is, it's the Battle of Alberta. So everyone feels that, you could feel the intensity in the crowd. Obviously the coaching staffs have some history. And I think it was just, it was that perfect storm of, things maybe leading up to that point of boiling over. But yeah, I mean, you know what? It was just a hard-nosed football game. The refs threw the flags that they felt they needed to throw, and I think it was just one of those things that, yes, there was a lot of chippiness, but it was all in a very passionate. It was all through a very passionate lens.
Totally. I want to take a total side note and a step back here to when you were younger because special teams are kind of my jam. And what made you want to pursue and focus on being an elite long snapper?
It was kind of random. I remember the day I started. It was a peewee practice. It was a summer Saturday practice. It was the first weekend practice of the year. Coach Dan Condon actually was on the board with the Burlington Minor Football Association. He called the team over and was like, "Okay, who thinks they could long snap?" And I want to say after about 12 seconds of silence, I just kind of threw up my hand and I was like, "I'll give it a go." And then I threw a few in practice and Coach Condon walked over to my dad with a ball and said, "Here, work with him on this." And here we are. It was kind of a random event, but just I guess something that I worked at and just kind of stuck.
That's amazing. And it's interesting too because like I find a lot of guys, unless you're, a kicker or a quarterback, it seems like that's a lot of how guys find their way into the position that they're in. Coach sees something in them that maybe they don't see in themselves yet. What do you think is like the one piece of advice that you would give to younger football players that are in that peewee and bantam age group that may help them with getting to where they want to go?
Really appreciate the value of playing special teams. Especially for me, that's my whole job. But even going up, all the guys I've played with, like if they weren't a quarterback, their first step on the field was with special teams at the university level, at the pro level. Like you have to be able to play and play covered kick coverages and return team set up blocks. Like you have to play special teams. There's no avoiding it. Like you're either gonna play specials or you're not gonna have a very long career.
Well, and it's interesting too, because like I felt like special teams. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's he's a quarterback, and we were talking about I really love special teams. I love every aspect of it. I love being on kickoff. I love being on punt returns. I love that element of the game because it's so high energy and everything just happens so quickly and it's different every time, but it's the same every time. But I had a controversial opinion, and he disagreed with me on this, and I'm interested to hear what you would think about this. My favorite part of playing Madden or college football or any of those games is special teams. I love setting up a crazy ass play in special teams.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely. Oh God, that's a good one. I think there's definitely once you kind of figure out, especially in the return game in those video games, if you can figure out how to score those big play touchdowns, it's always a good feeling. I think it just takes a lot of work and it's very tedious in terms of figuring that out.
Which
Like,
is ironically also what special teams
yeah,
is.
exactly. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I think you got to have a lot of patience if you want to make that your favorite part of the game. And so I think that's where I struggle the most with it.
That's totally fair. Well, something that you didn't struggle with is in university, you helped the Golden Hawks to a Yates Cup. And if you do not know, if you're listening, that is the oldest football trophy still existing in North America. How did it feel to be able to put your name on a piece of history like that?
It was a really cool feeling. It was something that was really special, especially for that group. My recruiting class, and obviously we had the COVID pandemic that stopped us from playing for a year. So we really had two sets of recruiting classes going into my first year. And so we were 3-3 that year. We only played 6 games. It was a reduced schedule. So we all kind of like said to ourselves, ourselves, we kind of have to buy into this program. And so it was something that we had all worked towards, and it was such a big group of us, and there was so much buy-in that seeing the end game of us winning that Yates Cup championship, it was an unbelievable feeling.
Well, and when you talk about buying into it, like I don't know all of the logistics of what it was like playing university ball during the pandemic, but was it limited in terms of where you all were playing and traveling to as well, or
Yeah, so in 2020 we didn't have anything. It was really just we had these what were called like I think they were like the potted practices, which was essentially you got in groups of 25 guys or whatever the number was, and you got out and did a little bit of indie work, and that was really all you could do. And so that's what we did for the first little bit and did that up the summer leading up to the first training camp. And then that 2021 season, that first season we had it was a 6 game schedule, but the OUA was actually split. For those of you that don't know, there's 11 teams in the OUA. We were split into an East and West division because they wanted to limit travel and limit the possibility, I guess, of exposure. So it was very limited in terms of travel, in terms of who we were playing, until it got to my second year when we got in 22, when it got back to a bit more of a sense of normal, I guess.
I have to jump to a completely different topic because there was a photo that the Stamps shared on Instagram of you and Aaron Crawford, and it's you when you're a little kid, and Aaron Crawford is playing for the Ticats at that time, and then it's you guys both playing for the Stamps, and this is in the preseason. But it's like, what was that like walking into training camp, getting to share a locker room with a guy that you grew up watching and I'm sure inspired you in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, for sure. It was awesome. It was really cool. I mean, it was kind of intimidating going into your first pro locker room because you don't know what to expect. And he made things really, really easy. He was very welcoming, very supportive, and it was really cool kind of having that background a little bit. After I mentioned it to him, I don't know how happy he was. I made him maybe feel a little bit old, but it was really cool to kind of share that moment and then be able to go through a training camp working together. He gave me a ton of advice. He still gives me advice to this day, and it's a relationship that we still have going on to this day, and I hope we can keep it going forward.
Well, and I feel like that's something that's really cool about the CFL compared to the NFL is the relationship between players, because even if you're on the same roster and you're playing the same position, there is obviously always going to be that competitiveness, but it seems like in the CFL more than any other league there is that willingness to help each other out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it just really comes down to, we're all football players at the end of the day. We understand that it's a business, and the coaches are going to do what they feel that they need to do in order to make their team the most successful. So we're going to go out there and do our thing, but at the end of the day, we understand it's not personal, nothing's personal, and we can go through this in a competitive environment, but we can go through it in a friendly and respectful manner.
Well, and I feel like that leads perfectly into my next question because, speaking about knowing what coaches want to do to make the best team and being respectful about it and understanding each other, you were cut after the preseason last year and then brought back 2 weeks later. What were those 2 weeks like for you? Because I mean, that's got to be the craziest feeling to be in some preseason games and to like hit that level and then all of a sudden be like, what is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind. Calgary let me go, and in Canadian university football, you get let go from your very first training camp. If you have another year of eligibility at school, you can go back and play. So I was going back. I was training, getting ready to go for my training camp, and then obviously Aaron went down in the second week of the season against Toronto, and it was a pretty quick turnaround. It was quite the whirlwind getting back because I think I was on a flight on like on a Tuesday, and we were playing Ottawa that Friday or Saturday. It was a really quick turnaround.
That is wild. That is super wild. And I mean, obviously, because you have the idea that you're going to be going back to university and playing, you're still going to maintain that level of not just fitness but game IQ, and you're going to be like putting that work in. Coming in though, you come in 2 weeks into the season now, and throughout the season, you end up helping the Stamps get to the Western semifinals, and it's your first season. What is the mentality after achieving that in your rookie year?
I think just what like just kind of look forward and what can I build on? What are some things I can work on that can help develop my game, really. Just So one of the things I knew I wanted to do, I knew I needed to get a little bit more athletic, so I had to drop some weight, work on my agility, my speed, just get a little bit faster. And it was just something kind of going forward with really like, okay, we've done this, but like, what can we do to make it better? That was kind of my mentality through the whole off season.
And I imagine too, when you go out into the off season at that point, it's like, do you feel like there's a little more job security, or is it like you're still gonna have to like prove yourself coming into this year?
I mean, I still think there's definitely an element of me having to prove myself. It's one of those things where for me, I always I always try and be hard on myself because if I'm not, who is going to be? So it's one of those things where I try and put the pressure on. And even like I was talking to Jude, our one of our kickers, and he was having to calm me down a little bit after not having a great day in camp and just kind of just reassuring me like everything's okay. So it's good to have guys around like that, and it's good to have a support system like that that can help me kind of stay level-headed in that sense.
Well, and I actually I feel like I share that quality with you in that I feel that same way about everything that I do. If it's stand up, if it's acting, if it's for instance, even I started playing football again this year. I haven't played since high school, and I we had a preseason game where it was just an inter squad scrimmage. And every play went out the fucking window in my mind. Like I couldn't remember jack shit, and man, I felt so stupid after that, and it's nice to have those guys though on the team that are gonna like pick you up and let you know that it's okay to make mistakes. Where do you think that sort of mentality starts to creep in though, where you kind of take away that moment of like, oh, it's okay to make mistakes? Like where do you find that balance for yourself?
I think I just take a lot of comfort in knowing that I'm here for that I've made it this far for a reason. Obviously, it can get hard to kind of to see it sometimes if I'm having a bad day, but just leaning on that and then also leaning on my family. Like I talk to my parents all the time about it, and they're very similar and they know how to handle me when I'm in a bad mood or feeling down about myself. They always know how to kind of pull me out of that. So leaning on them is also very huge.
Yeah, I feel like our families are like the perfect example for that because my wife has no problem telling me shut up stupid once in a while when I'm I wanna ask this because obviously we're going into week one now of the regular season. Preseason has just ended. It's been a really fun preseason to watch. I was at the first game versus Saskatchewan. Cool thing to get to see. Like I mean, anytime you get to watch football in person again, it's a good day. And it was a great weather day. That game and then also the one against Edmonton really showed some insane. I would almost say like sleeper agents on the roster, like guys where you're seeing them make plays in these games where you maybe didn't recognize them before. Who do you think are some folks on the roster that we as fans should watch out for because you think that they're underrated?
One of our offseason acquisitions, McAllister, our running back and return specialist. Keep an eye out for him. He's been itching to make a play, and I know he's going to do something big for us on Friday. I know he's got the capability, and with the return scheme that we have, I think look out for him. I think he's going to do something special. We've got a lot of depth really at a lot of different positions. Yeah, we've got a lot of new up and coming offensive linemen. We've got a couple receivers who have definitely stepped in to play a big role, including a teammate of mine from Laurier, Laomi Ochitalayo. He's a special teams demon. I know he's itching to get down and on coverage and just get out there and make plays. He was our special teams captain of that Yates Cup team, and I know he's dying to get out there and just start hitting some people.
That is awesome. Well, first off, Jason, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. And I just want to say congratulations and good luck this season. I really hope to see you guys at the Grey Cup.
Thank you very much. We'll do our best, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.